Hello and welcome to this edition of Neuqua Connection. I'm Jack Thormeyer, and with me today is my father, James Thormeyer. Now, could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
So I am a married father of two. I have two kids in high school, and I've been a practicing architect for about 25 years now.
Now, going into high school, was architecture your main career aspiration?
It was. I think I knew early age that I was interested in design and construction. I like to go visit open job sites, walk around. I was just curious about how buildings were built.
What was it like in college learning the basics of architecture, and how do you utilize these skills today?
So I went to University of Illinois for 6 years. I stuck around for graduate school. Sophomore year is when you get into your primary architecture classes. There's a class called Studio, which is where you get individual design projects and you have to come up with the solutions following a program, and that was a very intensive process, but I loved it.
What company do you work at, and where have you worked in the past?
Right now I work at White & Company, which is based in Darien. In fact, White & Company is the design firm that's actually working on the proposed renovations for this high school. I'm not working on the school, I work in a different market. Previous to that, I've worked for a number of firms either in Naperville, Chicago, or for a short time early in my career I worked in Southern California.
On the average workday, what would you be working on?
My role in the office is I am a senior project manager, so I'm responsible to manage both clients and staff. So I would say on a typical workday, I am in conversations with clients talking about schedule and budget and progress, and then with the staff, it's working on design and engineering concepts.
Are there any special occasions where you get to travel for work?
Occasionally. It depends on where the work takes you. I've worked on some projects where I've had to travel by plane a couple times a month for upwards of 6 to 8 months. It's really just where the clients have projects.
How do you communicate with clients about things like budgets?
We try to be open and transparent with clients to let them know the progress of the drawings that we're working on and how much the design is costing at that time. So transparency is usually key to make sure that projects don't go off the rails.
What design took you the longest time and why?
Actually, it's a current project that I'm on up in Park Ridge. It is a new athletic facility. That's by the end of the project, that'll be about a 2.5-year project. We're about a year and 3 months in right now. I would probably say that one's by far taking the longest to design.
What is the most interesting building that you have designed in your career?
Interesting? It might be the same one. This is a project for a park district up in Park Ridge where they have an existing ice rink that is expanding, and they're adding a field house and some other amenities. Myself enjoying athletics and sport, it's been a fun project to work on.
And what is your favorite building that you've designed?
My favorite? Probably, I think just living in Naperville, my favorite project was probably the Wolf's Crossing Park project that wrapped up a couple years ago. That was fun knowing that I was working on a design that's in my community as well as going to be used by people that I'm familiar with, or my kids' friends are going to be using that facility. So I had some direct interest in that project.
So going off of that response, is there any more buildings that you've designed in the area?
I've worked on some projects in the suburbs of Chicago. I have a bit of a retail background, so I've worked on some shopping centers. I worked on a shopping center in Cherville, Indiana, which was a large 40-acre development with a number of shops. That's probably the most visible project that I've worked on.
Going back to your college days, what were some of the most basic things you learned about architecture first?
Some of the most basic things, I did get an opportunity to learn some of the basics with architectural history and tradition and previous design techniques, and learn about just how to work in an office once you're out of school. That was an important key to understand, that I was prepared coming out of college for the work environment.
What happens when you aren't one-on-one with a client on things like budgets?
And those happen fairly frequently, where the budget doesn't align with the design. I think you have to have moments during the design process where you have to kind of stop some of the movement on a project, have key meetings, and be honest with them. Most clients understand that budget can often be an issue, especially with cost escalation for materials, that you may have to adjust on the fly to make sure that the project can actually go to completion.
Is there anything else that you designed besides just buildings?
I built a doghouse once. Does that count?
Could count.
It was very heavy and I couldn't get it over the fence, so we ended up just tearing it down. So that dog luckily never got a chance to to use it. So.
What is the most difficult thing that you had to design?
Difficult? You mean complex or just maybe budget issues?
Mix of both, yeah.
I had a project in just outside of city of Chicago in a city called Norridge called Harlem Irving Plaza, which was an existing shopping center. They did a major renovation on that project, and there were a number of budget constraints as well as some unforeseen conditions. And when you work with existing construction and don't necessarily know the existing construction, you have to make some adjustments and assumptions. And that ended up being a very complex project. It took much longer, but I think in the end the client was satisfied with the end result.
Now, going off of talking about budgets, what's the most expensive project that you've been a part of?
That would probably be that shopping center in Cherville, Indiana. That was probably about a $60 million project.
Going again to college, what stood out about the University of Illinois architecture program?
They have some history to the program. I believe, if I recall correctly, the first graduate of any architecture program in the U.S. was from the University of Illinois. They've had that program for over 150 years, since when I attended in the early 90s. They had a good reputation for not only design, but the science and technology sides as well of architecture degree.
What relationships have you made in your career path, and how does it shape you today?
I would say most of the architecture profession is on developing relationships. You often find that when you seek out work with potential clients or to work with engineers and other consultants, sometimes that effort takes many years to actually come to a project. So that's probably been the most rewarding component, is the building of relationships in that market.
Now, going back to the white company that you work at, are there a lot of projects that you're working with a lot of coworkers, or is it a lot of solo projects?
Nearly all projects are going to be team-based. It's very hard to have the knowledge base to know everything and anything. There's always going to be opportunities where every project will have some kind of unique circumstance where someone who's got significant experience or knowledge of that is someone you want to draw upon. So it's very rare to work solo on a project.
Now, starting a new project, how long is that usually going to take before construction takes place?
It depends on the size of the project. Some projects, like White & Company, does a lot of public work, and clients are cities, park districts, school districts. Oftentimes it'll take a number of months to come up with a design that's approved by them before you even get to the point of going into the actual working drawings that you'll build off of. But any typical project, it's at least a few months of design, and construction can take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. Depends on the scale.
Well, that is all the time we have today. I would like to thank my guest, James Thormeyer, for joining us today. I'm Jack Thormeyer. Thank you for watching Neuqua Connection.